Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Daniel Hodgson. This evening we are honoured to acknowledge Admiral Linda Fagan, Commandant, United States Coast Guard, accompanied by Rear Admiral Jonathan Early, Deputy Chief of Navy, Mr Neil Horn, Deputy Commander Maritime Border Command, representing the Commander Maritime Border Command, Mr Michael Outram, Commissioner of the Australian Border Force, and the accompanying delegation. We also warmly welcome the international delegation visiting as guests of the Office of the Chief of Defence Force. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association, and we welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. Now, if you're able, I invite you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Thank you. If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read just one of the stories behind those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Gunner Ivan James Baird. Ivan Baird was born on the 12th of May 1918 in Te Haupe, New Zealand, the son of James and Louisa Maud Baird. By the time of the Second World War, he was working in Victoria as a labourer. Baird enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force at Caulfield in Victoria on the 12th of June 1940, about a month after his 22nd birthday. He began training in Australia and in August was promoted to acting corporal. In May 1941, Baird was reprimanded for failing to appear at a place of parade, and later for being found beyond the limits of camp. In June 1941, he was hospitalised with an upper respiratory tract infection. On returning to duty, he transferred to the 23rd Anti-Tank Battery, which was to be allocated to Lark Force. As it was no longer part of a brigade, the unit was redesignated as the 17th Anti-Tank Battery on the day of its departure. Baird arrived in Rabaul in late September 1941, having reverted to the rank of gunner. Here, his unit combined with the local unit of the New Guinea Volunteer Rifles, the 2nd 22nd Battalion, a coastal defence battery, an anti-aircraft battery, and elements of the 2nd 10th Field Ambulance to form Lark Force. Its role was to protect nearby airfields and the seaplane base at Rabaul, and to provide early warning of Japanese movements through the islands to Australia's north. Despite being ill-equipped, the men spent the following months constructing defences and training for operations in a tropical environment. That environment took its toll on the men at an early stage, and Baird was hospitalised, suffering from malaria in late December. Japanese bombing of New Britain began early the following year and increased in intensity. By the morning of the 22nd of January, 24 Squadron was virtually destroyed and its 3 remaining aircraft were withdrawn. As the strips were no longer useful, they were destroyed and Lark Force withdrew from Rabaul, waiting on the western shores of Blanche Bay for the inevitable Japanese landings. These began after midnight. By 9 a.m, communication failures and overwhelming Japanese strength had destroyed the cohesion of the Australian defence. It's estimated that against the original garrison of 1,400, the Japanese landed 17,000 men in the immediate vicinity of Rabaul. Lark Force Commander, Colonel John Scanlon, ordered a withdrawal on the basis of every man for himself. Unprepared for retreat, among the men, chaos ensued, and Lark Force disintegrated. Over the following days, groups of men, ranging from company strength to pairs and individuals, sought to escape along New Britain's north and south coasts. Some found small boats, while others were picked up by larger vessels operating from New Guinea. Around 400 members of Lark Force managed to return to Australia, 300 of whom were members of the 2nd 22nd. About 160 Australians captured by the Japanese while trying to escape were massacred at Toll Plantation. And another 836 were interned as prisoners of war. Gunner Baird was among the group of approximately 850 military prisoners and 200 civilian internees who were ordered to board Montevideo Maru on the morning of the 22nd of June. 8 days into the voyage to Hainan, Montevideo Maru was spotted by the American submarine USS Sturgeon, which manoeuvred into position to fire its stern torpedoes. Survivors from Montevideo Maru's Japanese crew reported 2 torpedoes striking the vessel, followed by an explosion in the oil tank in the aft hold. The vessel sank in as little as 11 minutes. Of those aboard, barely 20 Japanese crew survived. More than 1,000 others died. According to a surviving Japanese crewman, Australians in the water sang Auld Lang Syne to their trapped mates as the ship sank beneath the waves. The sinking is considered the worst maritime disaster in Australia's history. Unaware of the ship's loss, the families of those on Montevideo Maru continued to send letters in the belief that their loved ones were being held as prisoners of war. It was not until after the war that they discovered the fate of those lost on Montevideo Maru. Among the dead was gunner Ivan James Baird, who was 24 years old. Today, he is commemorated at the Rabaul Memorial, at the Montevideo Maru Memorial in Ballarat, and the Rabaul and Montevideo Maru Memorial here at the Australian War Memorial. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among some 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner Ivan James Baird, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. I wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.